The following program was produced by an independent community producer. The opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of the ECAT staff or board of directors.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Topic Time with Harrison Young. We are moving through April already. I've had a couple of great interviews already to start the month. Last night I interviewed Barry Nolan, the iconic broadcast media personality from many years ago in the Boston area and syndicated all over the country. And today I'm interviewing someone who's also a broadcast media icon in his own right, Mr. Darren Paltrowitz. He's on Long Island in a beautiful home. But before we get to him, got to read these incredible underwriters, and then we will commence per usual. So we got the Physiologist 101 Barbershop in Brockton. We got Eli's Auto Care in Taunton. We got Lynch's Towing Auto Cycle and Truck Center in Brockton. One number for towing, one number for projects. Always looking for new scrap metal, wheels, anything to do with transportation. My pal Lynchy over there can handle. He can handle it all. We got 111 Tattoo Collective on Torrey, on 478 Torrey Street in Brockton, their new location. We got One Good Credit in Brockton. We got Hometown Furnishings in Taunton. We got John's Greenhouses and Florist Shop in Brockton. We got Auto Town Auto Glass and Auto Body in Abington. We got Chapin Sheds in Whitman. Good to have them back for the spring. We got the Gunrunner LLC, the Second Amendment Freedom Store in Middleborough. We got Grant's Rental in Bridgewater. We got Doggie Boutique, all breed pro grooming for dogs and cats, run by my great next door neighbor, Debbie Siddell in Brockton. We got Easton Fitness in the Village Shops in Northeastern. We got RW Carpet and Flooring in Norton, covering floors for 50 years. And we got Joe's Diner in Taunton. I want to thank all you guys very much. And now on that note, I'll now introduce this young man. As I said, is officially Darren Paltrowitz. He's an iconic broadcast. I'd say based on the people that he's interviewed and the YouTube videos that I've watched of his interviews, that he's in a pretty good field of interviewers and media broadcast people. So Darren, thank you for reaching out to me to do my show, because I feel like I'm an up and comer, and the more people that reach out to me, the higher up I go. And that's, and you're helping to make that happen. And I'm hoping I'm doing the same for you.
That's a lot of kind stuff that you just said. Thank you, Harrison.
I'm a big fan of yours too, but I do mean it.
Hey, no, likewise. I'm a big fan of yours. When I saw you on with Carl from Who Are These Podcasts,
Yep.
And I saw how quick-witted you were and how much you knew about trivia, and I saw how quickly you could just recollect things. I was very impressed, so I reached out, and here we are.
Considering the kind of people you've interviewed, the well-known celebrities, you had Shaq on, I guess you had John O'Hurley on, a Seinfeld, you had this beautiful singer-songwriter Hayes Warner on today, and I expect that video is going to really take off, and her career is really going to launch. And I expect that some of the people you've interviewed that have been up and coming in the industry of whatever they're doing are going to make a big difference for them. And of course, as we all are trying to just, move on in our chosen fields, as the farmers would say.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Somebody like Hayes Warner, for example, they just said, hey, would you like to speak to this person? She's up and coming. And when I was speaking to her, the things that she's mentioning that she has coming up, she's opening up Louis Capaldi's tour. And
I saw that.
Tour. That's huge.
It is.
Yet you look at her Instagram, and I think there's only 15,000 or so followers at this point. She's more of a TikTok artist. So it could be the ground level for a really huge artist.
Yeah, exactly. And I'd love to have her on my show too. I don't want to be like Kenny Bania on Seinfeld and be the backdrop to all your other people, but certainly all the people you've had on your show would make great guests on mine. And I like to think of us as possibly the new circuit, like Leno and Letterman. So now it's Paltrowitz and Harrison, that kind of thing. So the people can say, oh, I was on Darren's show, now I got to do Harrison's show, and that'll get us more, more higher ratings and all that. But like what I do with every person I interview, you're my interviewee now, so I want to profile you. I want to find out about your history and your situation. So tell me about, you were like growing up. Where did you grow up? How did it get to where you're at and get you to where you're at now? And we'll break it down and we'll cover it, and then we'll bring it to the present day and then look toward the future. So go ahead.
Thanks. Before I do that, that was a great Kenny Bania reference right there. I think if you go through your secondary and tertiary Seinfeld characters, you really know your stuff. And the first guest on my podcast was
I'm working out. I'm huge.
Did,
Was he you interviewed him?
yeah, he was the first guest on my show.
I
So
forget his name. What's his real name?
Fred Stoller is his real name. I think his character was called Fred.
Whoa. Fred Stoller was not Kenny Bania. He was the other guy. He was the one that went out with Elaine and she couldn't remember that's Fred Stoller.
That's what I'm saying. Harrison knows his stuff. So
But he's a great actor too. He's hilarious.
In Dumb and Dumber and so many, every sitcom Fred Stoller's been in that kind of matters.
My favorite was the old cartoon Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist from the 90s and early 2000s. I mean, well, Mike, you know who Sarah Silverman is, right?
Is that your cousin?
She is. And Laura, her sister, is also an actress, and she played the voice of the receptionist Laura in Dr. Katz, Professional Therapist. And she's
so one time I met Laura Silverman through a mutual friend, and I kept asking her all these questions about Dr. Katz, and I don't think she was that pleased to talk about Dr. Katz, or she might not have been pleased to talk with me. I don't know which one it is.
Was that before or after you started your amazing podcast?
I wouldn't call it amazing, but that was.
Come on, don't sell yourself short. We got to listen. We got to knock our careers as high as we can, but I don't in a good way. But well, all right. So, but did you talk to her about his role as Dawn on the King of Queens? Because that's a pretty funny role too.
You know, I didn't know she was on King of Queens.
Yeah, she's a regular. She plays Carrie Leah Remini in the paralegal office there. Well, she plays the one of the sidekicks in the office, and she has a lot of roles in that show. She's a guest star on many of the episodes where they have scenes from Laura's office. I mean, from Carrie's office. And when I watch a sitcom, it's not, as long as we're talking about sitcoms. I always sort of become engulfed in the demographic of the characters. For instance, I watch 2.5 Men, not just because it's funny, but because I love the house that they live in.
Yeah, that's a beautiful Malibu home.
Home it is. I know it's just a TV set, but nevertheless, I mean, that gets my attention. I watch the King of Queens, and and everyone in that show lives in a crap hole, and that includes Doug and Carrie, except theirs is less disgusting than the others. And I don't mean disgusting. I just mean it's the kind of place that I wouldn't want to live in. The kind of place in Malibu I would love to live in, but not. That's what I'm saying. I've always done that, even going back to the Leave It to Beaver era when I used to watch that as a kid.
Yeah. So if you go down the list of houses from shows that you'd want to live in, the Full House is really impressive. That house is
my favorite house is the one from Who's the Boss. Remember that one with Tony Danza? That was the best house of all. The worst one was the Honeymooners, obviously. That was the poorest house. And then One Day at a Time was pretty bad, and All in the Family was kind of a grunge. Because Queens is, I know you live on Long Island. Now, speaking, I mean, you're not in Queens, but I've driven down there, and I know the Queens kind of borders Long Island. And when you go east to Queens, it gets really nice. When you're in Queens, it's working class.
There's parts of Queens that are very, very ritzy, like.
Oh, okay, I'm sure there are. I was driving. I remember the Long Island Thruway back in Well, I'll tell you the date. It was November 20th, 1977. I actually drove down there.
Wow, you know that.
Yeah, it's photographic memory from autism that I have. So,
yeah. Well, with dates and all that, when I saw your interview that you did with Carl from Who Are These Podcasts, and he said something about David Letterman, and you're like, well, he went on the air in 1982, and you did it like that. I went, wow, I'm taking Harrison to trivia night at whatever bar they.
Well, I remember 1982. I was 23 in 1982. So, and I remember when Letterman went on, because I know that I remember I had finished watching. The year before was SCTV, the Canadian from Canada, and Letterman was I got the sense that Letterman was kind of like a silly host, like those people were. So, well, let's talk about you though. I don't want to get off too far off the subject until we profile you efficiently. So, tell me about yourself. You grew up on Long Island. You've been there your whole life, or you tell me where you grew up and what did you do as a kid that got you to where you're at now? Like I said, we'll piece it together.
Sure. So I grew up in a town on Long Island called Belmore.
Okay.
And our high school is very famous for being the Amy Fisher High School, where Amy.
Oh, okay. You sure that wasn't Merrick?
Oh, wow. You know your stuff. Yeah, the kids from Merrick also.
Well, that's where you live, Merrick, right?
The Belmore Merrick area shared a high school.
And Debbie Gibson was there too, from there. Wow. Debbie Gibson and Amy Fisher were neighbors, I think.
They did grow up close to each other. Then that
Yeah.
town also gave the world Ben and Jerry. Everyone says that Ben and Jerry are from Vermont, but they're really from Merrick, Long Island.
Oh,
Lindsay
that's some trivia that I didn't know that you told me.
Lohan. Yeah, there's a lot of people from metal and hardcore and punk stuff from Merrick.
Okay.
Lots of stuff happening in those towns. But the high school I went to, not the most arts welcoming thing, yet a lot of
Okay.
people I went to high school with are writing for late night and writing for television these days, in spite of all that. So I started writing for some newspapers when I was in high school, starting doing interviews back when I was 16, 17. They were horrible, but I guess you do something enough times, you get decent at it over time. So I
Wait,
don't
when
want
you
to hear
say
those.
you're writing for newspapers, are you talking about for the school paper or for the regular or for a regular, published newspaper in the town, or both?
Uh, you know what? My high school newspaper said I wasn't good enough. Yet at
Okay.
that same time, I was writing for community newspapers. My
So there
English
you go.
teacher,
And so you wrote for so you tell them, so screw you, I'll write for a better paper. If you don't like my writing, I'll find someone that does. I get it. Good
yeah.
for
So I
you.
started doing that when I was in high school and continued into college, and then I went
What
in and
college?
Hofstra University on Long Island.
Austria. Yep. I've had people on that went there. That's a great, so I hear it's a great school. That's great. Okay. And
Yes,
did you major in journalism at Hofstra?
I did not. I majored in basic communications kind of stuff there. I thought I was going to be a teacher. Then once you actually student teach, you kind of realize, oh, I don't want to be here. I just want the benefits of being a teacher, but not the actual teaching.
That's
Now,
interesting. Usually,
aren't you a teacher by trade?
me?
I thought that you had a lot of teaching in your past.
No, I had a lot of flunking classes in my past and getting pissing teachers off, but that's where that's where you got to draw the line in my case. But
Okay.
well, here's the thing. The one thing I actually did attempt to try and get my name on a list of substitute teachers, because around in Massachusetts where I live, if
Mhm.
you have 3 years of college experience, and I do have 4 because I graduated, I went to 2 colleges and, for my associate's and bachelor's degree,
Sure.
you can, you're legal to teach, to substitute teach if the school that, the schools would, take your name and they want to call you at any given day. So I got a couple of interviews done. They never called me though. So to
Mm,
that end, that's as close as I ever came to teaching. I thought I tried to give it a shot, but they never gave me a chance. So
their
never had,
loss.
yeah, exactly. I'm okay with it. If they
Yeah.
called me now, I'd say, let me sleep. This is my day off. Don't bother me. You had your chance in the 90s and you blew it.
Yeah. So I come from a family of teachers, and I
Okay.
decided not to be a teacher and to pursue a career in entertainment, which, has its highs and lows these days. But these days, I'm a private investigator and also the writer, interviewer kind of person as well on the
Wait,
side.
whoa. You're a private investigator? What is, I mean, you work for the feds? Is that it? Or something like that?
Not that I know of. If I did, I don't think I'd be allowed to tell you.
Oh,
But
okay. Well, you don't want to give too much away. Don't tell me what you're not supposed to tell me. But
no, I do background checks and social media checks and surveillance, and I do that as a freelancer, and then I also have a full-time employer that I do it for. So every now and then that does overlap with my interviews, or somebody that I'll be interviewing looked me up and they went, "Whoa, can we talk about that?" So, you'd think that those two career paths are totally different, but it turns out they occasionally do overlap.
Well, it doesn't sound like they're different at all, because basically what I mean, you're a guy that does research, and that's how you enrich your, they say knowledge is power, and you enrich your plethora of stuff by doing that, obviously.
Sure. Yeah,
Whatever.
they're both fields that I mean, they push you to keep learning. They push you to keep networking. They push you to keep your skill set sharp.
Right,
And they both
exactly.
have conventions and networking events tied to them. So those are ways that they're very similar at times. But the big difference is with investigating, you're supposed to be in the background, hidden. People are not supposed to know that you're doing that. Whereas at the interviewing, you kind of want to put yourself out there more and have as many people as possible see your content.
Well, here's an off the cuff question. Have you ever interviewed anyone that you investigated first, or done, or the other way around, for any reason? I'm just wondering, that sounds like it. I mean, you maybe you ran a check on a woman that was a spy, they thought was a spy, and you found out she was clean, and you said, and you were became kind of infatuated, and you said, "How'd you like to be on my podcast? Tell me what you
Uh,
really do."
Now
I didn't mean
that
to put
didn't
you through all that
happen.
aggravation by sending those sending those sharpshooters to your hotel room. Like we had an episode in Boston yesterday.
Yeah.
Some FBI raid was screwed up because they went to the wrong place and they ended up tying up two airline pilots. I don't know if you heard that on the news, but it was Boston, the big on Boston news yesterday. So I'm wondering if something like that ever happened with you.
Thankfully, that has not happened with me.
Okay.
I have had people, though, that I've known or in my life go, hey, can you just run a background on me and see what comes up? And for the book that I'm writing that's coming out next year, I did have to do some backgrounds related to that to make sure that some people could or couldn't be interviewed with relation to what I needed for the book.
Oh, okay. So basically, there are certain criteria, personal criteria that you need to follow in order to decide. I saw there is a connection. Yeah, I see that. Okay. So when did you start?
Yeah.
When did you start the Paltrowitz? Whatever what's the
The
title?
Paltrocast with Darren Paltrowitz.
Paltrocast with Darren. When did you start that?
It started as an audio podcast itself in 2018.
Okay.
And then it launched as a TV-oriented thing in 2020. So about 3 years ago.
Something tells me the virus had something to do with it, because then in 2020 you had to do Zoom again, right? Like we're doing now.
Exactly. Yeah. I realized I was taping all these interviews that were via video, via Zoom or Teams or one of those kinds of things. So I was going to put it out as an audio, but I have the video. Let me make sure with the handlers if it's okay if I can use the video. And in most of the cases, they're going, sure, feel free. And then I did that enough times and I realized, wow, I could do this weekly. And I haven't taken any weeks off in the last 3 years. And most weeks I've been pumping out 2 episodes instead of 1.
Great. That's what I do too. 2 episodes. I do 2 episodes, 2 shows a week at different locations. I love it.
And what, 12 years of this? Something like that?
Well, this is my 13th year. I started it on August 18th of 2010 in the town of Have you ever been in New England? Have you ever been up to the Boston area before?
Oh yeah. My show is on a bunch of different Massachusetts stations, but I used to manage an artist that was from Stoughton.
I live right next door in Brockton.
And then he worked with a drummer who was from Medford.
Yeah.
So they taught me all about the Massachusetts geography.
Okay. Well, I could. In that case, then here's what I did. I started the show in Marshfield in 2010. I had it there for 4 years. Mm-hmm. That's an area called the South Shore because it borders the Atlantic Ocean on the south of Boston. For the next 3 years, I had it in Rainham, Mass. That's close to Easton, where I have it. This is one of my locations now in Easton. Mm-hmm. That's like one town south of here. And then I had it a year in Bridgewater, which is in the neighborhood also. Then that was till 2018, and then I decided to branch out and do 2 shows a week. That's when I brought it to here. And to the Area 58 location in Carver, Mass, which also covers Plimpton and Halifax. Those are 3 very nice towns also on the South Shore near the ocean. And then I had it on an interim basis. I had it in the town of Middleborough in the summer and fall of 2020, because when we were coming back from COVID, they felt that Area 58 that it would be safer for me to only do the show every 2 weeks. So during the off weeks I didn't do it there, I did it in Middleborough because I still wanted to get my 2 shows a week in. And then also in 2020, I brought it to the town of Wareham. So that's my 3rd location on a Veterans Day, when I knew that all public access stations are going to be closed on a 1-day holiday. I wanted to see if I could get it into a different station on a different day of the same week. And I sent a link of my show to Wareham. They signed me right off to do it there. So now I'm officially at 3 stations, and I love that. And everyone at all these stations are incredible.
That's great. That must be very fulfilling to have that much output, because if you say the guy's doing 2 or 3 interviews a week and it's been going on for 10, 12 years, something like that, you must be at thousands of interviews, or is my math really off there?
Well, it's not really off. It's probably close. It could be. I think it's probably more like to the 600 to 800 range, but it's in the ballpark.
Yeah, definitely. So that's something to be very proud of, because how many people say they're going to launch a podcast or launch a show, and then how many people from there do it and then stick with it for more than 10 episodes? So you're actually doing it, Harrison.
Well, that's true. I agree with that. But when I started it, I mean, I didn't know what my strategy was going to be. I had no guests at first. I started it with no guests, no soup. We were going live. We were trying to get people to call in and talk to me during the drive home time between 5 and 6 at the first location. And then I got on Facebook in 2010 rolled into 2011, and I just started reaching out tons of people. Now, like you said, it's probably been 800 something episodes in that range. And on
Yeah,
we go.
I mean, how many episodes was King of Queens on the air? You have more episodes than King of Queens.
Well, I know that I don't know how many episodes they put out, but I know they lasted from 1998 to 2007. So it was a perfect turn of the century, turn of the millennium timeline for them.
Yeah, I would guess that they probably had 150, 170, because 100 is the magic number for syndication, and they are syndicated.
Oh yeah, definitely. I see what you mean. So so what? It's not considered syndicate. A show can't really be put out onto syndication unless it's at least 100 episodes. Is that it?
That used to be for every show. Now they'll kind of make exceptions for the HBO shows because those usually have 8 to 10 episode seasons.
Okay. Well, that's right. HBO, because HBO is a larger network, so they don't need as many shows to. And plus, a sitcom usually is on network television once a week.
Right.
HBO might have a special once a month. I know that those networks, those cable networks have a different criteria than the regular networks do.
Yes.
That's always been the case. It's probably
Yeah, so
it's all about the
eventually
big
you're going to
memo.
have to, Topic Time eventually is going to have to get syndicated. That's what I'm saying. You have so many episodes at this point.
Well, whoever wants to syndicate it can syndicate it. If Spotify wants to give me a contract, I'm down with that. And in the meantime, most of the episodes, every episode I did from probably 2014 on is on YouTube somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
The first 4 years are not. They're on DVD that I still have in my house. Because for the first 4 years in Marshfield, they didn't use YouTube then. They were just using Vimeo, which is a lot, in my opinion, a much inferior media outlet promoter to YouTube. And they ended up dropping the contract anyway within in my last year of the show there. So and I think I've improved a lot since then too. I'm a lot more confident now doing the show than I used to be back during the first 4 years.
Yeah, and plus you're getting lots of guests that are outside of Massachusetts, meaning that in some way you're national because people are reaching out and being on your show, not in your town.
That's true. Oh, no question about that. I mean, like I said, we did a show to Liberia last week.
Right.
And we did a show to Australia a couple of years ago. So, I mean, I'm definitely, and I've done shows to Europe. I've done shows I did a couple of Canada. So, and now the sky's the limit. So, right. I mean, no question about it. Anywhere in the free world, they can get Topic Time. And because of the promos I've been getting that I didn't even see coming, we're getting more, likes for it. And well, tell me about some of the greatest interviews you've ever done. Who are the coolest people? I mean, they're all cool. They're all wonderful, but name some of the stars that you've interviewed. And I know you interviewed Shaq. I know you said Fred Stoller. And of course I saw the one with Hayes Warner and the one with John O'Hurley, but talk about some of those people you've interviewed.
Every now and then I'll get a really, really big name and I go, oh, really? Okay, thank you. But sometimes the interviews are a 3-minute time slot, and sometimes the interviews are 30 to 40 minutes. Everything is kind of different. One that was a lot of fun for me that I wasn't expecting to be fun was Billy Corgan from the Smashing Pumpkins.
Oh, yeah, I remember, I'm sure.
And
wow.
Yeah, I didn't think I was going to get him, and I did. And we had a strict 30-minute time limit because he had another interview, but I swear we could have spoken another 2 hours. Did
he sing 1979? That's my favorite Smashing Pumpkin songs.
Great song, still holds up.
Do you have like people? do you have musicians perform on the show ever?
People have offered, but I don't take them up on that. I just figured I could throw to a music video or something else. And also some of my stations may go, hey, show us all the paperwork and the publishing clearances. And that's just such a headache. I'd rather just do the interview and then throw to the thing that the artist does like.
Okay. That's well, okay. Now, on that having been said, how many stations do you do your show at for? It looks to me like you're doing it right out of your house.
I do it out of my house. Occasionally I'll do an in-person one, but I'm being shown regularly on 80+ stations. Give or take every week, something like that. I have a 24/7 channel that loops my interviews through local BTV. And plus it's on Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all those places where you generally look for podcasts. So it's a TV, it's a podcast thing. And then I also do articles on most of them at paltrocast.com.
Okay, those are written articles that come up online, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Sometimes it's roundups My wife and I have a series called Paltrowbox where we unbox videos of stuff that I get sent in the mail. If you look carefully, you can see some boxes. We're overdue to unbox some stuff, but a lot of people when they write stuff, they go, "I only do food," or "I only do travel," or "only do music." I like to do all those plus sports, plus booze, plus CBD. If it's interesting, I'll do it.
The whole 9 yards. I get you. Okay. Well, guess what, Darren? We're down to the final 5 minutes of the show. I hope you had fun with me. That went
Totally.
by pretty fast.
Totally. You are a blast, Harrison.
Okay, thank you. I guess to some end we all are. If you want to break that down a little more, but that's a show for another day. So what I'd like you to do, if you would, is just give a few shouts out to people that are going to see the show, and then we'll wrap the show up with my music and snapping in the way we started. And if you want to accompany me, you're certainly more than welcome to. So
Sure. Well, hey, as I
okay,
said
bro.
at the beginning of the chat, I found out about you from Carl from Who Are These Podcasts. I don't know Carl. I like his people. They're
Okay.
good people. So shout out to him for hipping me and a lot of other people to Harrison Young. Adam Bush, he's a big fan of Carl and he's a big fan of yours. He should be on your show. He was
Okay.
an actor of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. He knows Laura Silverman, so you could ask Laura about him the next time you speak.
Well, that's the thing. I don't really talk to my cousins now. I mean, I'd rather have her. I'd rather have him talk to her. If you talk to him, you can refer her. I'd love to get Laura on as a guest and Sarah too. I mean, but we can do it by Zoom. I don't know how entrailed you are with the people out in Hollywood, but that would be wonderful. Where sitting where you are. I assume you do some interviews with people out there, right?
Occasionally I'll go and I'll do something there. I'm going to be in Los Angeles towards the end of the month for a work thing, but I'll text Adam and I'll see if he can get in touch with Laura if they still talk and all that. But
that'd be great. And also, I'd love to get him one too if he wants to do it. And that leads me to my next thing. Give as many shouts out. Talk to as many people as you can. I want to get more guests to word of mouth. I love to do interviews. You've interviewed a lot of cool people, and I'd love to get them on my show as well. If you could, when we get the link up online, which should be next week, I'd love for you to share it, and send it to as many people as you can, and encourage them to contact me.
Promise. And shout out to my wife, Melissa. If you don't shout out your wife, you're in big bad trouble.
You're gonna be hit with a divorce suit soon. I know.
Exactly.
You got any kids, or is it just the two of you?
Just the two of us. We are the kids.
You are the kids. Was your wife part of your podcast too? It sounds like she plays a major role somehow, aside from just being your wife, and in terms of professional too.
She did inspire the theme song to the show, with Steve Schultz from the band Longwave Road. She unboxes those Paltrowbox videos. If you look on YouTube for the Paltrowbox, you'll see her hands, you'll hear her voice. She makes a better first, second, and third impression than I do.
Okay.
Generally.
That's great. Okay, I did listen to it this morning when I was looking at the YouTube videos. All right, now I have one last favor to ask. After we wrap the show up, will you stick around and let my tech guy take a picture for Facebook, and we'll tag you, and hopefully you'll tag me as well. Say
anything you want, Harrison. Anything for you.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Well, I won't hold you to that. I won't hold your feet to the fire there, but I appreciate the gesture. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, on that note, we're going to wrap the show up, and then and then next week we'll have it up. It's pretty easy to edit because we really didn't have any videos to edit in here. So it'll just be the graphics, and that'll be it. And we'll send it out to the world.
Sounds good.
And we'll say we took a big step up today in both our careers. I hope. I think we did.
For sure.
You agree?
This is going on my IMDb. Okay, Harrison?
Sweet. Oh, well, it definitely is. It's going on mine as well. I've been on IMDb too for all my shows.
Sure.
So, okay, you ready to wrap it up the way we began it?
Ready to wrap up. Are we snapping?
Just about. Okay, folks, thanks for watching Topic Time. Signing off. See you next time. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
I think I can snap.